Hello everyone. Today we will be reading Master of Self-Realization and Ultimate Understanding by Shri Sadguru Siddharameshwar Maharaj. Chapter 1. The Importance of Self-Knowledge. At the beginning of this exposition, reverential adoration is offered to Shri Ganesh first, then to Shri Saraswati, and finally to Shri Sadguru. What is the reason for offering solutions in this order? If someone were to ask. If the sequence of this adoration is changed, will there be confusion? The answer has to be yes. There will be confusion. This is because Shri Ganesh is the deity for meditation and contemplation, and Shri Saraswati is the deity for the exposition of the teaching through words. With the help of these two deities, the deity in the form of the light of the self that arises in the heart of the aspirant is none other than the Sadguru. Therefore, the Sadguru necessarily has to be adored after Shri Ganesh and Shri Saraswati. Only when the understanding of the subject becomes firm does the grace of the Sadguru descend. Neither the exposition of this text nor the contemplation of the contents of this text will by themselves lead the aspirant to the goal. Therefore, one should reverentially adore both Shri Ganesh and Shri Saraswati. There is an ancient method of expounding the teaching of Vedanta that is commonly followed in this tradition. Sampradaya. When presenting the subject matter of this text to the aspirant, according to the method, first the manifest form of the Sadguru is seen by the eyes, then the knowledge about the teachings of the Vedanta and the value and significance of these precious teachings is extolled through the words of the Guru. Then a mantra, a subtle name of God, or a phrase is given, and the aspirant is instructed to practice meditation on the repetition of the mantra for a short period of time, usually several weeks, to imprint its significance within. This provides a means for the aspirant to make the mind more subtle, so that the teachings to follow can be more easily grasped and realized. This is the seeker's initiation to the teaching and invitation to become an aspirant on the path to realization. In accordance with the method of the saints that has been outlined above, the Sadguru first explains about the subject that is to follow, then indicates in characteristics, and finally follows by imparting a detailed knowledge of the subject. In most schools of education, when teaching small children about any subject, the teacher first verbally informs the child about the subject matter that will be taught. This is called the kindergarten method of education. Similarly, initially, the Sadguru verbally gives you a concept or idea of reality such as you are he, or only Brahman exists, or some other similar form of mantra that is to be contemplated upon. Through repetition or churning, this idea will be indelibly imprinted on the mind. This is called the tradition, sampradaya, or of the Sadguru, Through this preliminary method, the aspirant achieves results sooner. So be it. Afterwards, the Guru expounds the truth, the subject matter, to an ordinary intelligent aspirant, and he understands what the Sadguru conveys, and about that which he is teaching. However, the main difficulty is in experientially realizing what has been intellectually understood. Through the exposition of the subject by the Sadguru, one understands what the self, Atman, is. However, the ghost of doubt pops up in the mind of the aspirant in the form of the question, how am I the self? And the aspirant's mental attitude does not become free of doubt. There is an intellectual understanding, but no realization. The remedy for this is to study with determination and learn the teaching. Unless there is sustained and repeated study, it will not be fully understood and realized. For example, in the instructional handwriting book, the letters presented are very beautiful. We understand this. But initially, we cannot write the letters in the same way. If, however, the same letters are written repeatedly, then by virtue of the practice or study, the letters are beautifully formed as soon as the pen touches the paper. Here, someone might ask, how much study or practice is required to learn the subject well? The answer is, the study and the practice or effort must continue relentlessly, according to each one's capacity until it is understood or realized. A general example can be stated here to impress upon the mind of the aspirant the importance of repeated study. An ordinarily intelligent man can understand the importance of repeated study. An ordinarily intelligent man can understand something if it is explained to him 2 or 3 times. If he repeats in 10 or 20 times, it becomes a habit. If he repeats it 100 times, it becomes like an addiction. Once he becomes familiar with it 1,000 times, it becomes inherent nature for the one practicing it. If we look at the fibers of the jute plant, they are so delicate and fine that they become scattered in all directions. When blown by the wind, however, when the same fibers are entwined together to form a rope, it is so strong that it can bind even a strong and violent elephant to a small peg. Similarly, great is the power of repetition, of the study of this type of practice. It is indeed true that Parabrahman is all-pervading and eternally free. However, the wind in the form of the mind has become so strong in us due to misdirected practice and study through birth after birth that it has imprisoned the eternally free Brahman in the thought of identification with the body. About the tremendous result of repeated practice, Saint Tukaram has said, whatever is unachievable becomes achievable only by virtue of repeated study and practice. Recognizing, symbolized by Ganesh and Saraswati, I missed a line there. Recognizing the importance of this study, the aspirant should adore the principles symbolized by Ganesh and Saraswati. This means that one should fulfill himself by continuous meditation and learn through repeatedly hearing the exposition of truth. Now, before one begins this study, it will be desirable for the aspirant to know many other things relevant to the subject. Why has the illusion I am the body arisen in a human being? What was the condition of the human being when he was born? How did he develop this idea of me and mine? Is his condition in the world free from fear? If so, by whom and how was he helped to be rid of that fear? All of these things must be taken into consideration. First, the human being was lying twisted up in a small space inside the mother's womb. When he was born, he came into the boundless world and slightly opened his eyes and looked around. Upon seeing the immense space and tremendous light, he averted his eyes and he was in shock. Where is this that I have come alone? Who is going to give me support? What is going to be my fate? These types of fear arose in his mind immediately after birth with the first shock. He started to cry. After a little while, he was given a drop of honey to lick. With this, he felt relieved, thinking that all was well, and that he had someone's support thus. He pacified himself. However, the first shock of fear was so ingrained in his mind that he became startled at the slightest sound, and then again became quiet when given honey or his mother's breast. In this way, taking external support at every step, this human being became dependent on the support of his parents. As he grew older, his parents, as well as those who looked after him as a child, started giving him knowledge about the world. After that, his school teachers taught him the various physical sciences such as geography, geometry, geology, etc., which are valueless like dust. As one enters the stage of youth, he again looks for additional props for his life. As it is determined in the world that support for life comes from money, wife, etc., he gathers wealth, and takes on a wife. He takes it for granted that he can be sustained on this worldly support alone, and he squanders away his life with fame, learning, power and authority, wealth, and wife. He gets added prosperity and becomes entangled more and more. His principal possessions and his entire support are his wife, wealth, status, youth, beauty, and authority. Taking special pride in all of this and becoming intoxicated with worldliness, the human being misses knowing his real nature. Pride about money, pride about authority, and pride about beauty absorb the man, and he forgets his real nature. Eventually, the above possessions start dwindling one by one. When these possessions start to drop off according to the law of nature, the memory of the original shock that he received earlier shakes him to his very roots, and he becomes frustrated. Panicking, he inquires, "What shall I do now? I'm losing support from all sides. What will happen to me?" However, this ignorant man does not understand that all these possessions had only one solid support, which was his own existence, or sense of I am. It is by that support alone that money had its value, that his wife appeared charming, that honor received seemed worthwhile. His learning gave him wisdom, his form acquired beauty, and his authority wielded power. Oh, poor man, you yourself are the support of all the above described wealth. Can there be a greater paradox than to feel that wealth gave you support? In addition to this wealth, power, woman, youth, beauty, of form, and honor, if one further receives ill-gotten fortune, how strange and perverted would one's actions become. A poet once wrote, describing the pranks of the human mind, "It is primarily a monkey. In addition to that, he gets drunk, and to top that, a scorpion bites him." Even such a poet would put his pen down, seeing the ludicrous absurdities of this human being, and would bid goodbye to his poetic talents. The sort of man who considers his body as God and is absorbed in its worship day and night should be considered to be like a shoemaker. There is an appropriate proverb that says that a Chamhara's god should be worshipped only with shoes. In Marathi, the word Chambar means the one who carries a hide on his back. This tells us the way in which this god, the body, of such a man has to be adored. The devotion of an atheist is the feeding of his body, and his liberation is the death of the body. For such a man, whose ultimate goal in life is feeding his body, and his liberation is death, there is no rising above the gross body level. This is not surprising in his case, if due to some misfortune he were to lose all his wealth. He would still borrow money to indulge in his habits of eating, drinking, and enjoying. If creditors were to hound him, he would declare insolvency to be rid of the whole issue, rather. When death strikes him, ultimately he just lies dead. He passes away just as he had come. Could there be anything more tragic or wretched than this sort of life? Why should the woman who showers praise on her husband for getting her a lovely nose ring think of the Lord who has provided her with a nose to put the nose ring on? In the same way, how can the animalistic human being who only looks to the body as the be-all and end-all of life sees God? The one whose powers give the sun its existence as the sun, the moon its existence as the moon, the God their existence as gods, is the one Almighty God. It is He who is the support of all, who is present in the hearts of all beings, and has become invisible to man. The one whose eyes are trained on external objects sees only that which is external. The word aksha is a synonym for I in Marathi. A is the very first letter of the alphabet. And ksha is one of the last consonants. It means that whatever the eye sees will lie within the range of these two letters of the alphabet. It will only bring information or knowledge of external objects. Gross objects will be visualized by the gross eye, and the subtle will be sensed by the senses, or the subtle. Sorry, I'm a little tired. And the subtle will be sensed by the senses, which are subtle. However, one letter of the alphabet that comes after ksha in Marathi is nya, G-N-Y-A. The letter nya indicates knowledge that cannot be seen either by gross external eye or the subtle eye of the intellect. Therefore, the intellect and the senses together indicate the eye with the synonym aksha. Like the eye, the other sense organs, the ear, nose, and tongue, are all pointing outwards and continue to exist on the strength of external objects. The king of knowledge, I am, influences all of the senses and seems to grant these senses to lordship over the sense objects. It is because of this externalization that the fact that he is present prior to the senses does not attract anyone's attention. Over many births, the mind and intellect have acquired the habit of only looking outward. Therefore, to turn within has become a very difficult task. This is called the reverse path, which the saints follow when they turn in the opposite direction. And behold, the mind completely gives up seeing all that is external. Where an ordinary man is asleep, the saints are awake. And where an ordinary man is awake, the saints doze off. All beings find themselves awakened to external objects and have become extremely skillful in this type of awakening. The saints, however, have closed their eyes to external things, and it is the self to which other beings are asleep that keeps the saints wide awake. One who gets millions of rupees is worried about how to double down in the next day. He pushes himself to acquire more and more. However, the saints warn him, turn back, you may be caught in the whirlpool of illusion, Maya. This Maya has come in like a full tide, and you might be carried away. The modern technological advances that come to this world with newer and newer innovations, as well as those yet to come, make up a cyclone of great illusion, Mahamaya. Be certain that you will be held captive by it. Who knows to where the one who is caught by the great cyclone will be carried off? When the saints see one whose attention is taken up by these modern advances, running here and there, struggling in his pursuits, they try their utmost to bring about an awakening of self-knowledge in him. There is a story about when Saints Ramdas and Saint Tukaram met each other while standing on the opposite banks of a river. With a gesture of his hand, Samartha Ramdas asked Saint Tukaram, "How much awakening have you brought about among the people?" Saint Tukaram replied with a gesture, forming his right hand in a fist and putting the back of it to his lips to indicate that nowhere had he found anybody who cared for awakening to the self. Then Tukaram Maharaj put the same question back to Samartha Ramdas, who then indicated that there was no one awakening whatsoever. They then continued on their way. Saint Tukaram has said, "How can I describe the obligations of the saints? They are continuously awakening me. Even though it is true that Saint Tukaram and Samartha Ramdas are no longer with us in bodily form, they have given us all they have wanted to teach in the books. Abhanagatha and Dasbodh, the great wealth that they have handed over to us, is the priceless legacy of these books. Whoever makes a claim that he is heir to their legacy will enjoy the priceless inheritance. However, the one who wants this wealth must give up the pride of mundane, demonical wealth. In addition, whatever acts that one considers as meritorious and dear to one's heart must also be renounced. One must be prepared to take a step on the path that turns inward. These are the conditions for becoming a beneficiary of this legacy. Man is fully immersed in the pride of his body, his caste, his family, his region, his country, and whatever good or bad is in his nature. All of these various types of pride have possessed him until he becomes completely free from these various types of pride. How can he claim to benefit from the legacy of this treasure that the saints have left behind? Only the one whose heart sincerely relinquishes pride can become the beneficiary of this wealth. There is hope for the man who becomes aware of these various types of pride that he has acquired from birth after birth, which have become his second nature. If he sincerely relinquishes this pride, he need not be frustrated. If a slave is awakened to the knowledge that he's a slave, he instantly starts looking for a way to freedom. A slave who finds joy in his slavery and makes every effort to continue in that condition cannot even conceive that a highway to freedom exists, until such time that the knowledge of his slavery dawns on him. Similarly, a lucky man who feels that the ambition of getting ahead of others is actually taking him on a downward path will get from that day onward a glimpse of the reverse direction shown by the saints. Slowly, he automatically starts making the effort to step onto a new path. The various types of pride may not leave one all at once. If the aspirant starts to become completely determined to be aware of the pride that he harbors and begins to leave them one by one, the infinitely merciful Lord will not fail to give him a helping hand. If one takes pride in vicious or evil acts, this should be counteracted by increasing pride in good acts, thus eradicating all of his bad qualities. The good qualities should be nourished and developed. However, one should not be attached to them, and should slowly begin to abandon the pride arising from good actions. A doubt may arise here that although vices deserve to be left, why is it that you tell us to leave good qualities also? After all, good qualities are always good. Dear aspirants, although the possession of good qualities in comparison with vices and bad qualities seems to be better with regard to the pursuit of attaining self-knowledge, the possession of the good qualities which one holds dear to one's heart is really 100 times worse, and truly need to be thrown out. Look into this and see. An aspirant tries to leave his bad qualities on the advice of the saints because of the sense of shame that is created by society or in one's mind. However, the one who possesses good qualities is always getting praise in the world, and is accordingly full of pride about these good qualities. It is very difficult for one to let go of the pride about good qualities. The pride regarding negative qualities can be left fairly easily, but it is not so in the case of the pride regarding good qualities. Nobody wants to admit that he has committed an error, but the pride that one harbors when he has given meals to thousands who have visited the 4 holy places, or opened lodging for holy people, or worshipped the deity millions of times, becomes so firm in him that it becomes almost impossible to give it up. It is when one recognizes one's worldly ways and is ready to relinquish them that he soon finds a Sadguru. However, the one who is sought after by everyone for performing many good deeds gets so deeply buried in the flattery that is showered upon him that his way to the Sadguru becomes lost due to his pride. Realizing this, one must conclude that pride about bad qualities is tolerable, but the pride about good qualities is best to be avoided completely. Both the pride about one's good qualities and the pride about one's bad qualities are thorns on the path to self-knowledge. When one thorn is pulled out with the help of another thorn, there still remains a second thorn, pride of good actions. That one carries around in the shirt pocket. Will this thorn not also prick the chest or rib? If a thief is shackled by iron handcuffs and a king by golden handcuffs, does that mean that the king is not bound? Take it for granted that while the man in the iron cuffs will thank someone who frees him from them, the man with the golden cuffs will pounce on the throat of anyone who tries to free him. He will try his best to permanently keep the golden cuffs on his hand. What is the force behind this? Who is this friendly enemy? In the example, who makes one feel so happy in his bondage? It is the pride one has in good deeds that is the real archenemy of the aspirant. This pride is the enemy who blocks the way to ultimate truth, paramartha. Therefore, it is necessary to renounce any pride that one has about good deeds. This may require tremendous effort, but without renouncing all pride, the aspirant can never claim his legacy to the wealth of knowledge. It is believed by many that a man's worldly wealth, such as money, a beautiful wife, status, etc., is a result of meritorious deeds done in previous births. But these very beliefs act as boulders obstructing the way to finding the ultimate truth. Therefore, it may be said that these things are really the result Of body identification, the definition of sin. When a person is infused with pride, he becomes possessed, and therefore becomes incapable of treading the path of ultimate truth. Contrary to the wealthy man, there might be a man who does not have a penny, who is quite ugly. He has no wife, no status, and is so poverty-stricken that in order to fill his belly, he is willing to eat whatever food he could get from anyone. He may have lost his caste, family, friends, and all who were dear to him. This homeless wanderer may be naked on all fronts and even believed to be wretched by the whole society, yet he truly may be more worthy of gaining self-knowledge, because he is naturally free of pride. The ears of someone like this poor naked man turn toward the Sadguru sooner than one's whose ears are filled with flattery. The one who is puffed up with pride has no room for receiving the advice of the Sadguru. Such a person has no time to turn to the Sadguru's advice, even for a minute. The whole of humanity has become entangled in illusion from birth and lives in bondage. In addition to this, man creates many types of artificial bondage around him in the form of comforts and attachments resulting from ever new inventions. If man has to live in modern society, he has to abide by and respect the norms of traditional social conventions and governmental rules. For example, wearing a necktie in order for one to do one's daily work is supposed to be a proper social etiquette. In these types of ways, to be up to date in society makes one feel that he is getting more and more freedom. In modern society, if one does not indulge in drinking or drugs, or does not shave every day, he is considered a social outcast. By diving into the bondage of such a society and holding such silly ideas dear to the heart, one only continues binding oneself, only further increasing the pride that one has about worthless things. Unless these types of social bondage and pride are completely thrown off, and unless one is considered to be a madman by the socially wise, quote, socially wise people, there is no hope that one will arrive at such a mental state that allows one to be free from pride and such social bondage. The Sadguru's only aim is to help one to become completely free of all pride and to eradicate the identification with the body. If the aspirant finds the renunciation of all pride and social bonds difficult to do, or is unwilling to formally renounce his wife, money, or estate, he can begin with inward renunciation. When this becomes successful, the formal renunciation slowly becomes possible. Inward renunciation means renunciation that is undertaken with the mind. For example, there may be someone who has the habit of hurting others with harsh words. It does not cost the aspirant anything to replace that habit by saying only kind words to others. As another example, there may be some people who have the habit of telling lies unnecessarily. In their case, they should begin renunciation by stopping the telling of lies, at least until such time that an occasion arises where, unless they tell a lie, some great calamity may occur. This type of mental renunciation will also not require any expenditure. While looking at a neighbor's prosperity, one should not be envious of his neighbor. Will making such a decision bring the aspirant any harm? In this way, when one begins to renounce negative qualities, he also begins to gain strength in renouncing external things. This world is like a dream, and in this dream-like world, whatever is considered to be good or bad, merit or sin, or anything in the realm of dualistic morality, is of no consequence in the process of awakening to the self. Therefore, renunciation of both sides of duality, such as good and bad, or auspicious and inauspicious, is necessary to gain self-knowledge. Even though this may be understood, it is still difficult to eradicate pride, no matter how often someone may repeat to himself to renounce, renounce. It will not make even the slightest dent on pride. However, if the reason why this pride enters one is discovered, it can't be eradicated, and renunciation automatically follows. It can be eradicated, and renunciation automatically follows. The aspirant must come to understand that the reason why one harbors pride for objects is because he believes the objects to be true. If one understands that objects are only a temporary appearance and becomes convinced that objects cannot really provide true happiness, then the apparent reality of the objects automatically fades away. It then becomes possible for one to develop detachment for those objects that were previously held dear to one as true. Okay, I'm going to stop there and we'll continue reading. I stopped at page 10. Page 10, Master of Self-Realization. And I stopped right at where somebody marked it with a pen. Thank you.